Okay, take 15. It's one of those videos, I just can't seem to frickin' film it. Here we go, The Bad Guys, take 15. Let's do this. So, The Bad Guys. You're wondering if it's worth a watch. Well, you've clicked on the right video. I was lucky enough to see this film early, and I'm gonna give you my honest, no BS, non-spoiler review for The Bad Guys, and let you know if it's worth the watch today. Hey guys, my name is Brandon, aka the BrandoCritic. Thank you guys so much for being here today. Clicking on this video, I really do appreciate it. Hit the like and subscribe button down there. Can you guys do me a favor and do that? It's free, it helps out the YouTube algorithm. It's really greatly appreciated. Thank you so much. So, we have The Bad Guys from director Pierre Perifel. If I mispronounce that name, I apologize. This is actually his very first directorial debut for a feature-length animated movie, but he's been in the animation department before for such films as Kung Fu Panda, Shrek Forever After, and Curious George. And the film stars Sam Rockwell, Craig Robinson, Awkwafina, Anthony Ramos, and many others. And the story is about a group of animals who have been labeled the bad guys in many other stories across time. The Bible, folklore, children's stories like Little Red Riding Hood, of course, you have the big bad wolf, the snake, the shark, the piranha, and the evil tarantula. But of course, they're all friends and they're in this crime gang and they commit crimes, rob banks, but they are caught one night. But to get out of prison, they have to join good rehab. But of course, becoming good when you've been labeled bad all your life is a pretty difficult thing, and it's easier said than done. So is The Bad Guys worth a watch? And it feels weird to say that because I want to say, are The Bad Guys worth a watch? But regardless, is this movie worth a watch? Absolutely. Now, in my own personal view, there are two categories where animation can fall into. Number one, the first category is where you feel like it definitely just caters to kids. This movie is made for toddlers, it's not made for the adults taking those kids to the theater, and we all know this movie's right. Like, you have the adults that want to shoot themselves in the foot because they're like, I guess I gotta take my kid to see the nut job in theaters, right? Like, I'm not looking forward to this at all. And you can just tell that the animators really just did not put in their effort. They said, it's a kid's film, but sorry guys, just because it's a kid's film does not give you an excuse not to try. Unlike The Bad Guys, that falls into category number two, where it's made for the entire family. The entire family, adults, grandparents, teenagers, and little kids can all enjoy it. And The Bad Guys falls into that category really well because it has great messaging, exciting moments, funny moments, great characters, memorable characters, a story that is full of twists and turns, and it's just an overall really well-made, well-animated movie. Now, honestly, I could end the review right there. And because I've tried to make this video 15 times, I kind of want to, but I will keep going and I will talk about the things that I really liked about this film. Mainly the animation and the comedy and the messages, but I do have some gripes about the overall world and the rules that it brings forward and the third act with its pacing issues, but we'll get into that right now. So, the animation. The animation is wonderful, and I'm sitting there in the theater with my notebook and I'm just writing, animation looks great, animation is astounding, that looks really cool, animation. This movie just looks fantastic, and what I like about it is that it's not going for the realistic look that a lot of Pixar films are going for. This movie is stylish. There's a lot of shell shading, it definitely has a lot of pastel colors, and what I like about it also is that the rate of animation definitely varies. You have some moments where it's really choppy, like that Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse type of way, and then you have some moments where it's a really smooth frame rate. You have slow motion, then you have it speed up. The rate of animation definitely varies, and that means that there's a lot of energy in this film. Of course, you have those huge facial expressions which can show the character's emotion, and it really works into the comedy, which I will talk about in a second. But of course, you have those really intense car chases, which were some of the highlights of the entire film, but there are also some little details. Like, for example, when a character takes a photograph in the movie, the photograph that you see is not 3D animated. You're not actually seeing the 3D animation that we're seeing, you're seeing it in 2D animation. And those little details are like, yep, these people who are making this movie are putting effort into this story. And you can really feel that. You feel like, yes, these animators are really giving it their all, and you can see it in this movie. Now, let's talk about the comedy. This movie is very funny, but it's funny in a lot of different ways. Of course, it's a animated movie, so you're gonna get some slapstick, and it's very fast-paced, right? So a lot of the timing will just be completely perfect. But you have a lot of sight gags in the background, and a lot of the lines of dialogue can be sarcastic, they can be cleverly written, they can just be wordplay or puns. There are a lot of different ways how this movie can make you laugh. And here's what's so clever about it. This movie is an ensemble film. And most of the time in comedies, you have the straight man who just feeds jokes to all the other characters. But in this movie, every single character has something unique about them and a moment to shine. For example, the shark is a master of disguise. So of course, you're not just gonna have one moment where the shark just dresses up like somebody to get through some security, right? Like, you will see that in the trailer, right? Like, when he's in a dress and he's like, oh, I'm having a baby. Like, that's funny enough, right? But the animators and the storytellers know, okay, we have this shark who is a master of disguise. How many times can we really maximize the potential of this gag? And they shove it in everywhere and they work. Now, I will spoil one little joke, but you see them go into this laboratory and this one lab guy sees the shark and goes, Dad, is that you? And the shark just goes along with it. Yes, son, I'm here to play baseball with you. And he goes, oh my God, I'm so happy. I bring out a baseball and I bring out a baseball glove. And it's like, what in the world? Where in the world did this come from? And it's like, yes, this is the premise that we're going with. And here are all the opportunities to really maximize that comedy. And the animators and the storytellers take every advantage of it. And on top of that, and this is tricky, by the way, toilet humor, especially in an animated film, can just be juvenile, right? Toilet humor, like fart jokes, are not funny just because they're fart jokes. You have to add some cleverness to them. So, for example, the Piranha character farts when he's nervous. So he's not just gonna fart whenever. It's like, that character just farted. The storytellers have to write the story around scenarios where this character would get nervous, and then of course, farting would lead to a lot of different sight gags. For example, he's trying to hold up the characters when they're trying to do the Mission Impossible, grab the artifact from the lasers, right? But of course he's like, I'm so nervous, I'm gonna, you know, that's funny. Toilet humor can be funny in the given circumstance, but toilet humor just for the sake of toilet humor is not funny. This movie understood that. And I gotta point out the messages too. So you have don't judge a book by its cover. And we've seen this in Shrek, and we've seen this in many other animated films before, right? Like, every kid should know that by now. But of course, people forget it. Children forget it. Adults forget it. I forget it. So it's good to see it in this movie. But there is also another message about friendship and how when people change, that can often rift friendships apart. And sometimes a friend is unwilling to change for another friend or might not understand their change. I'm going through that right now as we speak, and it's tough, and I've never really dealt with that before, and this movie actually spoke to me about that. So again, like I said earlier, you can have an animated film that just caters to kids, or you can have an animated film that really caters to the entire family and has messages for adults like myself, and you actually learn something in this movie, as well as for kids. This movie does that. And now for my gripes with the world of this movie. And this is where I'm like, okay, I could probably just let this slide, and for the most part I do, but you know, it did take me out of the movie for a little bit, but here's what I mean. You have these characters, right? Like you have the snake, the wolf, the shark, and they're walking around like human beings. They're the size of human beings. They wear clothing, and they're talking, right? Totally fine. I've seen Zootopia before, right? Totally fine. However, there are also human beings in this world, and they are talking with the animals together. So again, that's a little weird, but also there's one scene where I'm like, okay, I am taken completely out of this movie. It's where you have a human being on camera, like on a news camera, interviewing a fox. But this fox is as tall as the human, standing up, wearing a dress. And I'm like, oh boy, the furries have gotten a hold of this movie, and it took me out of the movie. And I'm like, this just looks strange. Because what's really strange about it is that, sure, you have human beings and animals. Okay, that's just weird, but whatever. But you also have animals in this world that are just pets. For example, the big bad wolf rescues a kitten from a tree, but the cat is not walking around like the wolf, like the snake, like the shark, like the fox. It is just a little cat that meows and acts like a cat. So it's a pet in this world. Now, we don't see any other cats that are walking around in human form, but this is where it gets even weirder. There is a character who is a guinea pig who can walk around and talk just like humans. But then you also have guinea pigs in the same world who are really tiny, in cages, who are just pets. Guinea pigs who can't talk. So is this like some kind of weird Darwinian type of evolutionary world where some animals evolve to talk like humans and some don't? Again, I'm reading way too much into this, but it is kind of weird and I don't really understand it. As well, there is a plot point where there is this meteor that hits Los Angeles. This is like backstory, but in Los Angeles you have a giant crater because a meteor hit. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, I'm not an expert or anything, but wouldn't the entire city, if not the entire planet, be like completely destroyed and devoid of life? But whatever. It was like one moment where I'm like, wait a minute, that doesn't, okay, all right, sure, whatever. So some people, it might just take them right out of the movie and just, you can't watch it after that. It took me out of the movie for a little bit, I will admit, but I'm like, okay, you know what? Let's just keep it in here. let's move along. My only real problem with the movie though is with the third act and its pacing. When the third act starts, the characters have learned their lesson. The characters have learned these life lessons that I was talking about earlier about friendship and about not judging a book by its cover. The characters have, the arcs are basically completed at this point. You just gotta, save the day, prove to the world that you're good, and you get the giant, exciting climax. But to get to that exciting climax, the characters have already learned the lesson. So for a good solid 15 minutes, I'm like, okay, I'm kind of bored. I'm kind of wanting to leave the theater. Like, all right, guys, I already know what's gonna happen. So, I gotta be honest. There was that moment where I'm like, I'm not really feeling it. But overall, though, this movie is funny. It's exciting. It's action-packed. It's emotional. It's heartfelt. Like, the heart of this movie is in the right place, and it's got some great messages. It's really well animated. I really enjoyed The Bad Guys. It's fun for the entire family. 4 out of 5 for me. I really did enjoy it, and I think you guys will too. So, those are my thoughts on The Bad Guys. What are yours? Let me know down in the comment section down below. I would love to hear them. And again, guys, thank you so much for sticking with me to the end of the video. I can't believe I finally got this video done after 15 takes. It was just me stumbling over words, finding out what to say, and I have notes for this review, but just sometimes you're just not in the right headspace. So again, guys, thank you so much for sticking with me to the end of the video. I really, really, really do appreciate it. If you like this video and you want to see more videos just like it, then hit like and subscribe. I really do appreciate it. But if you want to support the channel even more, come follow me on Patreon. We got a ton of exclusive content on there, hangout live streams, and I give you guys movies every single month. This month, I'm giving away a copy of Scream 2022 on 4K. Make sure you join the Patreon group, and I want to say thank you to all my supporters. You can find them right here. Thank you guys so much. You can follow me on Letterboxd, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And thank you so much to my partners at Movie Scene Canada for making the screening happen. Their link is down below in the description. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm done. I'm so glad I'm done. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. See you in the next one.